Hey everybody, Taylor Haney, single track surgeon, coming at you with another video, and today I'm here in Ridgeline Service, and Joseph is going to be showing you how to bleed the Hope Tech4 E4 brakes. These are brand new, and they are probably my favorite brake at this point in time. The modulation, the power are amazing, and I'm going to be doing a full review on those. The reason we have to do a brake bleed today is because they're going on my brand new Forbidden Druid. Now this bike build has been a long time in the making. I'll be doing a lot of reviews on transmission and a lot of stuff coming up. But today, let's get to that brake bleed and have Joseph show you how to do it.
What we got today is a Tech4 E4. So Tech4 is in reference to the lever, E4 is in reference to the caliper. This is going to be applicable to all their Tech4 brakes, whether it be X2 or V4. Also going to be a very similar procedure to their other levers such as the Tech3. Service schedule on most brakes, dot fluid particularly, you're going to want to do about 6 months to a year, maybe before bike park season, after bike park season. That's when you're going to cook them the most. The other reason is if you're just getting a little spongy feel in your lever, probably a good idea to go ahead and bleed them. Also check your pads. In this particular case, we did a frame swap, so we had to cut the line, reroute it through a new frame. So obviously we need to make sure that they're bled properly before we go get rowdy. Quick tool overview here is we've got the Hope Bleed Cup. This is a really, really nice tool, CNC machined. A nice thing to have in your garage. Also, if you already got one of these, maybe from a previous Hope version or bleed kit, you're gonna need to get the Tech4 cap or the appropriate cap for your lever. Now these are sold separately or in the kit, so depending on which kit you got, you may or may not have the one you need. But these caps by themselves are about 10 bucks, which is super cool, nice and cheap, easy to get. We've got just a regular old syringe here with some .4. I like using the Maxima fluid myself. Seems to have the highest temperature for boiling point and just getting fried. They really works good. I've been using Maxima fluid for many, many years. Next tool we're going to need here is a T10 for removing the reservoir cap bolts. The next tool here I have is a 4mm for adjusting the angle of the brake lever. This is a 6mm Allen key. This is simply to remove the back wheel. And then we've got a 8mm wrench here for opening that bleed valve. With any brake you're bleeding, first thing you want to do is you want to get your rear wheel removed from the bike. You don't want to get any contaminants on your rotor. If you get a syringe that explodes, that happens more often than you'd actually expect. Let's go ahead and get this back wheel out of here and get going. Now that we got the wheel out, the other thing we do not want to contaminate are these brake pads. So we're going to go ahead and pull these out. This is a 3mm Allen key. You should be able to just pull that off with your finger. You just kind of turn it counterclockwise about a quarter of a turn as you pull up on it, and it should come out real nice and easy for you. If you need some help, you might want to grab like a needle nose plier or something like that. And then you're just going to slide that pin out, put that where you're not going to lose it. And same with these pads, you're going to pull these out and put them where you're not going to lose it, plus you're not going to accidentally get oil on them. So the other thing that we want to do is I'm just going to spray a simple degreaser on there and grab a rag and do a pretty thorough cleaning. This bike is already really clean, it's fresh build, but just for the sake of showing today, I'm going to clean this up really good so I don't accidentally get any contaminants in the brake. You get the best possible result. Quick bonus tip, not part of the brake bleed procedure per se, but something that could help with your brakes. If you've got dirty pistons, your brakes are not going to work right. So what I usually do is I get a 3mm Allen key and I just put it over the end of a microfiber rag here. I put the microfiber rag over the end and I get in there and I clean these pistons and polish them up. You can use a degreaser, or the other thing you can use is maybe some isopropyl alcohol on the end of that and just clean up those pistons. You can also pull the lever. Now be careful when doing this that you don't actually compress the lever to the point that your pistons pop out. So I usually put my finger in there to just kind of hold everything. And then you can see as I did that, that piston right there came out and is more exposed, so I can polish that up easier. And then you can just use a tire lever. I use a Pedros lever. These are very gentle on the piston. After you cleaned it, you can push it back in to the caliper, and then you can, as you're holding the ones you've already done, it gets a little tricky, then you retract the other ones. Now again, be very careful, have something in there so you don't accidentally push the piston all the way out. Get in there and polish it with a rag, and it'll make your brakes perform a lot better. Now that we got our caliper all prepped and cleaned up and rid of any contaminants we might accidentally get into the system once we connect our syringe on there, we can go ahead and come up to the lever and get that prepped. Now what we're gonna need to do to get this prepped is we're gonna wanna get this reservoir as upright and level as possible. So we're gonna bring that guy up and snug it up a little bit. Doesn't need to be super tight or torqued or anything, just needs to be snug enough that it's not gonna move. The next thing we're gonna wanna do is bring our reach out a little bit and take our bite point all the way out. So all the way counterclockwise on the bite point adjust. So the reasoning behind that is to just make sure the system is as open as possible to allow for any bubbles or any reservoir or anything inside to get fully filled up as you push fluid up from the caliper. That will give you a much, much better feeling brake when you're done. After we got this leveled and we got the reach out and our bite point adjusted, we're gonna grab a T10 Torx and we're gonna loosen these guys up. Take note, these guys do not need to be super tight. Cannot stress that enough.
Tighter.
We're gonna go ahead and take these guys out and remove our reservoir cap, and I'm gonna drop these bolts as I take them out. I'm gonna drop them into this reservoir cap because I'm just gonna have to install this bleed cap, reservoir cap on there as soon as I remove the reservoir cap. If you encounter a sticky reservoir cap, I found that a 2.5 millimeter Allen key, I usually use one that's not like boogered up or anything so I don't accidentally booger up my customer's reservoir cap. And you're just gonna kind of insert it about 1 millimeter or 2, just enough you can kind of pry on that guy and peel up on it. And we're gonna grab our T10 again here and bolt this guy into place. Now use skinny side towards your stem. And we're just gonna snug these guys up. And again, cannot stress, these guys do not need to be tight. After you got your bleed cup installed, I usually just remove this plug. This is when you take the cup off. You don't wanna drain any excess fluid. Just take this guy out for now. So we got our syringe here with maximum .4 fluid. We got about 20 cc's in here. It's probably gonna only need about 2/3 of this syringe that we're gonna need to push through, but it's always good to have a little extra rather than not enough. So we're just gonna hook this guy on there. And we get a nice, good, positive seal. Now you're just gonna need to go back on this bleed nipple about 1/4 to 1/2 a turn. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and remove that wrench for now and set it aside. Now the first thing I do is I pull fluid down. The reason why is that little bit of air that was trapped in the end of my syringe / the bleed nipple, I want to get that up into my syringe and away from the system as quickly as possible. And we see those 2 little bubbles, 3 bubbles come out there. And then now I'm going to start pushing the fluid up into my reservoir cap. And you just want to push this nice and slow. Be patient. You don't want to push super hard and just jam on the syringe because you might accidentally push one of the pistons out or blow your syringe off and get dot fluid all over the place. And that is not going to be fun. So we got about 2/3 of our syringe here pushed through. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and pull back. And I see no air, no contaminants, good fluid color. I'm liking everything I'm seeing here. Now I'm going to get the syringe plunger to where it's about halfway. And then the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to, this is great if you have a work stand. If you don't, I don't know how you do this. I'm going to loosen up this guy right here. And I'm going to put the bike where it's a little more vertical. It just puts everything at a different angle to theoretically get anything stubborn that's hiding somewhere out. And then I'm going to push up again. Now we're going to do the opposite. We're going to come down with the front and bring the back of the bike up. And again, this is just changing the angle of everything, trying to get anything that's hiding anywhere to come out. I'm not seeing any air bubbles. This was already a well-bled system to start with, so any air that was in the system was just from us cutting it and putting it back together. And if you're careful, you're going to get little to no air in there doing that. Always want to play things on the safe side, especially with brakes. I think we've got a good bleed here. Now we're gonna double check everything. So I'm gonna grab our 8mm wrench here. We're gonna snug up this bleed nipple here. Now this doesn't need to go super tight again, just snug on that guy. You should be good to go. Another bonus tip is tearing off a little corner of a blue paper towel, lint-free paper towel, and just giving it a good little twist so you got like a little poker there. And you're gonna wanna go into the bleed nipple with that guy and then pull it out. Look at all that dot fluid that was in there in that bleed nipple, independent of the brake system. That's just gonna be collecting dust or potentially dripping out and contaminating your rotor. So really good idea to try to get that out of there. There's one piston that moved a little bit on me, so these guys are really super easy to push. So I just push that back to where it needs to be with my hand. And we're gonna go over here and grab our pads. Give it a quick little double check, make sure everything's lining up the way it should. Then you're gonna grab your pin here and slide that through, make sure it goes through your pads. Tighten this up, again, snug, that's it. We're gonna put our safety clip back on. And to get this on, kind of hit it at an angle and it's just gonna clip right in. Most of the time, you're not gonna need a needle nose or anything. We got our system bled. We're gonna do a quick test. So we got our pads in, we got the clip on, we got the bleed nipple closed. We're gonna go ahead and throw our wheel in here and give it the lever a few pulls and see how she feels. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and give the lever some squeezes here, see how she feels. I'm also just feeling the pad response as I squeeze it, make sure even movement. Everything feels really, really good. Good lever response, equal movement in our pistons. Everything looks good down there. And I'm just doing some quick adjustments, playing around with stuff. Everything is acting normal, exactly how it should. So we're gonna go ahead and cap this thing off and call her a day. We know our brake is all done and ready for the reservoir cap and bladder to go on, but we're gonna give this a quick bit of prep here. So we wanna roll this bladder on to make sure we're not accidentally trapping any air in the system. So I usually grab this with a paper towel just to get some extra grip and then just peel carefully. And it's gonna be stuck on there sometimes, and just peel it real carefully, inspect it, make sure there's no tears or any imperfections or deformities. This one looks really good. So this is ready to put on. So we're back at the lever. We're gonna remove our bleed reservoir cap and bleed cap here. So what I'm gonna do is I got my syringe back here, it's empty. I'm gonna just pull with this syringe as much as this fluid out as I can. So when I take it off, I get minimal fluid spilling. And then this is where our little bleed plug, or cut plug, I should say, comes in play. We're just gonna push that down in there and just go counterclockwise on this guy until she comes out. And you'll feel it kind of, the threads disengage, and you'll be able to lift that guy off. What we're gonna do next is we're gonna put our bladder on. So I'm gonna start to the inside edge and just kind of push it in and roll it on. And I'm just gonna inject just a tiny bit of extra fluid. It's gonna cause a little bit of spillage, but I'd rather ensure I have too much fluid in there that purges any air bubbles that might wanna get trapped. And I just kind of gently press down on that and kind of line it up. So I got the top cap, we got our T10 bolts here, got our wrench here. We're just gonna gently line it up and put it in place and make sure that I'm gonna do a visual inspection around the circumference here and make sure there's no snagging edges or anything weird going on with that bladder. I'm gonna give gentle pressure with my finger in the center here as I snug these guys up. Do not go super tight on these. You're gonna feel them kind of bottom out, and that's it. Not even any torque on them, really. These things, I get some people that just go crazy snug on these things. I gotta drill them out, and it's a pain. Believe me, don't do it.
I warned you, but did you listen to me? Oh, no, you knew it all, didn't you?
All right, now we got our reservoir cap on. I'm gonna use, again, some Maxima product here. Not sponsored or anything, but hey, if anybody from Maxima is watching this, we're not against it. So just use some suspension clean here. It's safe on most seals, actually all seals that I've come across. Give it a quick spray and wipe down with our rag here. And you're gonna wanna get into all these little crevices, real kind of thorough. Be a little OCD here, it's okay. just gonna grab our 4 mil here. We're gonna get this guy back down into position. And we're gonna take our bite point and our reach, and we're gonna try to get that back where it was, and then you're ready to go hit some trails and get rowdy.
Well, hopefully you learned a little bit today and you have the confidence to take these skills and bleed your own brakes. Of course, if you don't want to go through that whole process, or you just want Joseph to touch your bike like I let him do all the time with my machines, well, you can bring it here to Ridgeline Service. And let me tell you, Joseph is the man when it comes to servicing bikes. He's touched my bike before every single race. He's the only one I trust to touch my bike. So if you want a full tune-up or just a brake bleed, Ridgeline Service is the place to bring it. Well, until next time, remember, go fast, get drifty, and don't suck. You!